We're Laura and Cindy, and you're listening to the Holistic Horsemanship and Husbandry podcast, where we talk about natural horsekeeping and deepening your connection with your horse. I'm Laura, your horse care mentor. I teach natural horse management practices after working with over 200 horses and seeing how current industry standards are compromising the health of the horse.
And I'm Cindy, your horsemanship mentor, offering a proven and unique approach to creating deep connections with your horses from 20 plus years of experience, including working with wild Mustangs. If you enjoy this conversation, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to us so we can get this podcast into the ears of more passionate horse people.
So we are really excited today because we have a guest that I have been wanting to talk to for many, many years. And I'm going to share kind of a crazy story that Lockie has no idea is coming to get us started. I don't know what year this was. Beth Ann from Gosworth Track Livery was still on Instagram. And I was rehabbing my horse from a tendon injury in a really rough situation and not finding the answers about her hoof care that I needed and being kind of intuitively led to not follow some advice that I was getting. And Lockie's posts always brought me peace because I'd been studying natural horsemanship for years and just putting a natural horsemanship light spin on it. I won't escalate that far. I'll just do it nice because clearly the horse doesn't like that. And then suddenly there's this guy, Emotional Horsemanship, who's like saying what's in my brain online. And I'm paying very close attention to this. But I'm not in horsemanship right now, I'm in rehab. And he starts sharing these posts by Gosworth Track Livery and saying, she's doing an awesome job. Look at these. And she's not chopping into the foot in a way that feels wrong that I'm being told I should do. So I start following Beth Ann and I do exactly what she's doing, and the hoof grows out and everything comes up hunky dory. And now, because Lockie shared a few posts 5 years ago, I am a barefoot trimmer after digging my heels in the ground and saying, I will never be a horse professional ever. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So I'm meeting him for the first time today, but because he hit a share button and has a platform, it led me down an incredible path that I don't know that I ever would have found. So welcome, Lockie. We're so excited that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you. That's such a beautiful story. You know, sometimes social media feels like screaming into the void, and often it is screaming into the void. But I am also really cognizant of the ways it can have a ripple effect for people I'll never meet or sometimes meet, in good ways, bad ways. But my goal is always to have minimum unintended harm. Minimum unintended harm. I get that wrong. Sometimes I get that right. But it sounds like with you, it landed as intended. Someone who felt a call to service, decided to live a life of service. Maybe I was the last little straw that broke the camel's back or got the snowball rolling. You were probably pretty close to those choices anyway. But if I had any part in helping you get to that point, it's lovely to hear that.
Yeah, I think
The
he
world
maybe
needs
maybe
good
you
service
tipped the
providers.
boulder over the hill and then Cindy just kept
That's right.
shoving it
Thanks,
until it was
Cindy.
finally rolling.
Well done, Cindy.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So the
Yes.
real congratulations is with Cindy. If Cindy was the one that did the majority of the nurturing and the majority of the coaching and the support and the development, the real props lives with her. If I was the person who just tipped the boulder off the cliff, that's kind of easy to do. But the real hard work is in that long-term relationship and rapport building with people. So putting it right back on Cindy.
Well, thank you. I will take that as a compliment because receiving is something that I am personally working on. So
Uh-huh.
I'm going to I'm going to let that settle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like we're a tribe.
Mm.
And Lockie, for me, what you have done is you have validated what I have always felt as a little girl growing up, that deep connection with horses and that they are such amazing beings. And in a world where they're more of a tool than they are honored as the sentient beings they are, finding people like you are sometimes like a needle in a haystack.
Mm.
And you feel like, will people ever get it? And I have found myself like dampering down what I really know about horses to fit into that box of what is acceptable in the horse world. And you have had the courage and probably great discomfort by finally stepping up and stepping out, because you weren't always on the path that you're on. Reading your history, you've gone through a lot of the traditional stuff, discovering who you are and what horses mean to you. But you are opening the gateway for so many people like Laura and I to say, not only is it okay, but it's time to honor the horses for the beings they are. And so I'm gonna full circle us and say thank you both for having the courage to do what we're all doing.
Uh-oh, we
We
lost your
lost you.
audio, Lockie. Hmm.
You know what happened is my little kitten, as she passed the microphone, she hit the off button. That's what she did.
Love it.
She's somewhere south of my waist right now, so we don't know what's going to happen
Oh,
down there.
okay.
But I'm wearing Carhartt, so anything's possible. I'm okay. Um, so it's really nice to hear that said. I thank you very much for all of that. Um, and I want to be really clear. I'm not done. I'm not even close to being done. I'm barely getting started. Barely getting started. I've had a good start. It took 10 years to become what someone once said, an overnight success. It took 10 years to get to a point where I got any kind of traction, because I was out in the trenches doing this on a very small scale for a very long time before I ever did it at any kind of scale. I still feel like I've barely got my shit together. And if I really got my shit together, what could really be done? And my goal is always to have the maximum possible impact for the well-being of horses and the people who love them. That's always my goal. And I really don't sit around looking into the sky thinking about the gates that I've opened or the pathway that I've cleared for others. I really don't sit around thinking about that. My nose is firmly on the grindstone doing the work every day. Sometimes a little bit too much work. I'm a
Mhm.
bit of a workaholic, so that's my journey right now is analyzing the workaholism and how deep that runs in my ancestral lineage and how deep that runs in my body. So I'm very much focused on doing the work, and I think that pisses some of my detractors off that I do just do the work. I'm not some guy with his nose in the air and his chest puffed up. That's kind of making great airs about himself, or all talk and no action. I'm all action, and any talk I do is based on the actions I've been taking. So if I'm not working it, I'm not talking about it. If I'm not doing it, I'm not writing about it on social media. It's often interesting to hear people talk about my work, but all they've ever done is read my Facebook posts or whatever. My Facebook post is not my work. I'm a terrible influencer. I'm on social media because social media is the new word of mouth.
Mhm.
That's where word of mouth is now. It's on social media. Social media is word of the mouth. And so that's where I take my business to market so people can find me and get help if they want that. Um, but my work is not the social media. My work is what's done off of it. I use social media to talk about the work. Actually, I am technically an influencer right now for one company, and I'm doing a really bad job at it. I'm late on my deliverables by like 2 weeks. They're paying me to make reels. I forget about them. Like I'm just not a good influencer at all. And I'm constantly apologizing to them and I'm rereading my contract. I'm like, I'm supposed to make what with what? Like, I can't even put that together. I'm a tradesman, and that's how I've always seen myself. I'm an instructor and I'm a horseman. And that's the fact that I use social media is so that I can be liberated outside of my local geographical area and reach the people that are underserved but don't have a single cohesive place to be. So the internet gives access to an international community. You kind of leapfrog over the local and you just jump immediately into an international community. And then I very quickly find myself flying all around the world meeting these people. So yeah, it's nice to hear those things said, but it doesn't at all make my head get big, and it doesn't at all get me off the ground at all. I'm like, yep, that's very nice. That's very nice. Great. What's the work?
Yeah.
What's next? What do we have to do?
And it's just so refreshing to like, I don't know, I think it's just intuition, but like when I see your posts, I know that that's exactly what's going on. And that's why I want to follow you. And maybe it's because I've seen since you were, in the mountains with Sandy and Caleb. Um, but it's just so like we need the voice of the
Change.
tradesman to be the voice that we're hearing,
Mm,
not the
mm.
voice of I started 5 colts in 3 days 100 years ago and I'm still riding that public and then I paid a lot of money for a publisher or whatever, I don't know how these people come up, but
Well, I I
like,
think I think the horse world is a very long and wide table, and I think there's room at the table for all voices, including my own. The difference is I assert my right at the table myself.
right.
I'm not waiting for anyone else to say you have a right to sit at this table. If they did, I'm very grateful, but I also know the people who hold the keys in this industry will deign to give you a seat at the table. Meanwhile, they believe that you're sitting at the table because they put you there. No, you're sitting at the table because you put you there. They believe that they put you there and then they can take ownership for your success. That's ego. That has nothing to do with collaboration. And I know that people who deign to give you seats at the table or give you space on their platform can just as easily just take that away from you at a whim's notice if it suits their narrative. And I've certainly experienced that. And I'm cognizant going into those sorts of collaborations that that's likely to happen. But sometimes it's worth it because it enables me to reach people. It's leverage, right? It enables you to reach people. But at a base level, I've asserted my right at the table because I believe there's space at the table for everyone, including people at the table that don't train like me, think like me, or work like me. There's space at the table for them. And I would like there to be space at the table for me. And I would like you to consider my perspective as well in a democratic fashion. That's kind of what this is all about, is letting all the voices be heard. And I believe that mm, my goal is to try and represent a voice that's typically not heard in the horse world, or if it's heard, it's treated very badly.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to speak for.
Can we kind of roll back to the birth of emotional horsemanship and have you talk a little bit about like, did you know the can of worms you were going to open up and like
Sort
how
of,
that went?
sort of. I knew that there was just a lot of energy in my body that had to go somewhere,
Uh-huh.
and that I just couldn't shut up when I got around a horse and around someone where I could see that there were answers right there. And instead of reaching for the answers, they crossed the street. I'm like, no, 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 they're right there. It's right here. And I just couldn't stop myself. And so initially, my voice landed in really inappropriate environments because I just didn't know where to channel it. Um, and of course, initially pre-COVID, there was a lot of a fear around being really upfront about what it is I wanted to do with people and horses. And I would build relationships with clients. They would start a series of lessons with me. And then by the third or fourth lesson, I'd quietly say to them when we were relaxed and we felt good with each other, I would quietly say in the middle of an explanation, it's really not horsemanship. It's really kind of emotional horsemanship. And they were kind of go, ah, okay. And some of them would lean in and get really interested in that. And some would go, ah, okay, find their car keys, get in the car, drive away, never call me again. And I thought, okay, so this is a filter. This is a fork in the road for some people. And the people who drove away, hindsight's 2020, when I look back on their sessions, I could see all the ways that we were an inappropriate fit for each other.
Mhm.
And so I started to see that filter as not just protection for me and for my horses. So my horses weren't getting access to people that would put things on their body that shouldn't be there energetically. But also, I wasn't getting things put on me that shouldn't be there energetically, or I wasn't having to shape shift so much to suit the person that was in front of me. I was able then to stand more in my authentic self and serve from that place, which is where you're going to get the best service anyway. So that was kind of building in a pre-COVID era anyway. And I remember, would it be 2019 now? I ran my holiday sales that I do every year. I'm about to launch that again this week. And someone got in touch locally to where I was in the south of Spain. Oh, I see you do horsemanship. Oh, I'd love some horsemanship lessons. I see you're Australian and you do horsemanship. Yes. Okay. She's like, oh, I'm a big fan of Tristan Tucker. I see. Okay. I see how this is shaping up. She thinks I'm a low rent Tristan Tucker, that I'm going to walk in there with a rope halter and a flag and go flap, flap and fix the problems. Right.
Is this like a
And
Clinton Anderson, less famous, similar situation?
Tristan Tucker is a very well-known horsemanship instructor, Australian, who's based in the Netherlands, who works primarily with the sport, dressage, jumping, Eurosport community.
Okay.
But it's in a rope halter with a flag for the sport horse community, and that's kind of the hook. And he's got a really interesting way of thinking about horses and a whole system, and he's got an enormous platform and tens of thousands of clients. I mean, he's a big deal, and he's really legit. Yeah. I don't know much about his system, but I've had a lot of peripheral clients sort of touch base with his system, etc. Anyway, I'm aware of who he is. I'm pretty sure he doesn't know I live and breathe in the world, and that's fine by me. But his mother does, because I had an email from his mother once, but I digress. So she's like, oh, I love Tristan Tucker. I thought, okay, she thinks Australian guy, horsemanship. It's like a Tristan Tucker thing. And I know that I'm very different to the way he trains. Anyway, I said, well, what's the problem? She says, well, it's really strange. For the last 4 years, after every competition season, we have to start my horse's training from the beginning again.
Mm.
I thought, yes, isn't that strange? And I said, do you have any idea, like, what's happening? She says, he just becomes a nervous wreck after every competition season. It's really strange. I don't know why. So we have to start his training from the beginning again. I said, is it the same person who's been starting his training from the beginning again for the last 4 years? Yes. I said, okay. I said, well, I was already kind of feeling a little unsure about this. So I said, look, pro bono, let me come out and assess your case. Long story long, I got out there and the horses are living in knee deep, what they call deep bedding, which is basically just piling straw on top of manure until it gets so deep and rotten that you have to get a tractor in there to lift it out. And they said, it's a deep bedding system. It's what we do here in the south of Spain. I'm like, that just looks like a cesspit. Great. So they're living in cesspit boxes. Their turnout was an electrified horse walker for 6 hours. That was their turnout. Their forage was black paja de cebada, which is barley straw. So they're eating barley straw without the oat on it that had been sitting out with no cover and it had gone black. There was grass growing out of the hay. So that's the fodder that they're feeding. And the horse is strapped into side reins, head tied down, lunged excessively with a big long whip. And the horse who is an absolute lamb that she can hack in the countryside for as long as she likes, just turns into a rocket ship in the training. And instead of talking about training, instead of pulling out a flag, instead of going whack, whack, fap, fap, tap, tap with a stick somewhere and pretending to fix the problem or directing the horse into a new shape, I spent 3 hours having a beer with them and discussing inappropriate horsekeeping and shame on your livery manager for taking 235 euros a month and feeding your horse black straw. Their livery manager is an international FEI level judge of both English and Spanish horse sports, who was not on site because he was off judging an FEI level competition. He's a big name in the south of Spain. He breeds horses, exports horses to the United States. He's a big guy, right? And she's like, oh, you can't say shame on him. And I'm like, I would. If he was in front of me, I would say, shame on you for taking someone's money and feeding black straw to horses and turning them into an electrified horse walker for 6 hours. Shame on you. You should know better.
Oh my God.
You shame on you. You
6
should know
hours?
better. Yes, that's what I was told. I still don't believe it's true to this day, but that's what they said to me. And I cross checked that information. So I realized that by calling myself horsemanship, I was bound to attract people that would have a deep anti resonant dissonance with the truth of what I was there to say. She wanted me to come in there with a rope halter with all the symbols of training that she could adhere to and understand and put the horse into a different form or figure to make him behave differently for a period of time or teach him some liberty tricks or something. And what I was there to do was assess why the horse was not comfortable and sit them down over a beer for free and explain for 3 hours what horses really need to be happy, comfortable, and safe to train. And they did not like that one bit. And the next day, when I was at my employer, she said, what did you do with your day off? I said, I worked. Where did you work? I worked at this stable for this client of this guy. She said, oh, he's a big deal. What did you think? And I told her what I saw. She said, really? I've bought horses from him for years. How strange. She called him. She said, dude, what's going on? My groom says that this, and this is happening at your place. What on earth? This dude gets upset. This dude calls that lady. Who did you bring to my farm? He's telling people this, that, and the other. Blah, blah, blah. She calls me in a rage. You're talking bad about the blah, blah, blah. I said, no, hold up. Wait the phone. I'm not the one. I came for free, took you out for a beer, and everything I said to my employer, I said to you first. I spoke about my observations without exaggeration. And instead of changing something for the betterment of the horses, you're making me the bad guy for speaking about the truth of my observations, which is factually on paper what was there and what I saw. So this is the horse world, right?
It is.
Wounded ego that won't take accountability and be more upset about their personal feelings rather than how can we make things better? How can we make things better? And this happens at every level, in every discipline, even and especially inside the horse first community, and even and especially in myself. I wake up every day and I think to myself, where am I running this sort of racket in my life? And how can I get on top of that and make sure that that's not a daily factor for me? How can I mitigate that? Because nothing that is human can be alien to me. If that big FEI dude was engaging in this sort of nonsense, I'm capable of it too. So I've got to install this mechanism to make sure I've got a fail safe for my ego to always come back down to earth constantly. And I did it with you 20 minutes ago when you started to compliment me. And I said, yes, thank you very much. That's very nice. But also, what's the work?
And for the record, I knew you were going to hate that. And I'm sorry, but I
No, I don't
had
hate
to
it. Let
share
me
it.
you don't hate it. I don't hate the compliment. I'm very grateful to hear it, but never, ever, ever am I going to let it blow my brain up bigger than it needs to be. Because
Yeah.
some people get so smart that they're really stupid again. And we need to stay focused on the horses because we are so far behind, in my opinion.
You said that the work will never be done, and I forget the exact words that you said it, but what I took from it is one of the things that I believe is we will never know it all. As long as we're working with horses, we will always be learning. And when our mind closes to the point where that compliment goes way to our head, then for me, it's time to walk away.
Mm.
Because you've gotten to a point where you're not open to receiving what the horses can teach us. And I think that we will probably all go to our graves still learning what they have to teach us.
And what people around horses have to teach us also. I
Yeah.
remain confused why someone of that level, not to harp on this example, but it's an interesting example. I remain confused why someone of that level and of that stature and of that standard, how they can get so lost that they can look at black mold on straw with grass growing out of it and cut a slice and hand it to a breeding stallion worth 50,000 euros. I'm confused how a human being who gets into horses because you're passionate about the animal, or do they get in because they're passionate about the animal? What was their on road? What was their on ramp? What was their runway into this? I remain confused. I would love to learn how. I would love to learn why, not because I want to emulate, because I'm really curious and trying to understand the anatomy of that disaster. I want to understand what human factors drive these dead end streets that so many horses find themselves in, because I believe understanding that is critical to moving the needle forwards in a training capacity. Also, you've got to understand that human element too. And that's the hardest part for me, is trying to understand the human element that drives it forward or backwards or sideways at any one time. The learning never stops. I so agree with you, Cindy.
Ready to unlock true freedom with your horse? Join Unbridled Freedom, our private Facebook group for women on a spiritual journey in horsemanship. We don't fix our horses, we transform ourselves. This is your space to embrace challenges, celebrate victories, and deepen your bond with your horse. If you're ready to lead with wisdom, compassion, and inner peace, join us today. Let's dance with our horses as one. The link is in the show notes below.
And I think the horse world is just locked onto I'm either for the horse or I'm not for the horse. And so, you mentioned the horse first community, like, well, I'm horse first, so how dare you? It's a knife to my soul to suggest that maybe what I'm doing isn't in the best interest of the horse. And then it becomes an identity thing instead of a fluid, oh, I learned something new today, so I'm going to do something new tomorrow.
Mm,
And I think
mm,
we can roll that back into social media and the current climate of the world and how everything is
mm.
just so polarized. But it is a constant thing that we have to check ourselves of, are we walking the talk?
Yeah.
And, is there value in even being right? Is there a right? Or can we all just be marching in the same direction together?
No, I actually think there's room at the table for everyone, especially the incongruent voices,
Yeah.
like Mad Hatter's Tea Party. I mean, sometimes you just throw your hands up and you realize I'm at the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. I'm not supposed to set up shop here. I'm supposed to keep moving. And that they've got a function and a purpose in the community. Also, strangely enough, I lament horses that are stuck in systems that are bad for them. I lament that, but I don't have a savior mentality. I'm not that powerful. I can't save all horses. And I don't waste my time kind of stuck on that either. Um, there are some horses you just can't help, and some people who are resistant to help, and they're kind of a teacher also, in a way, someone for us to learn from in a sense.
Hmm.
Mm, and I think I use the term horse first very, very broadly, only because in a podcast setting or a social media setting, we need to be able to talk about categorical things in a straightforward manner. So I use the term horse first in a categorical manner, not because I'm not aware of the nuance that's inside of that, but because we need a straightforward way to talk about things without becoming completely tangential, that our brain gets spread in 1,000 different directions all the time. It's a way of having a focused conversation. So I use the term horse first broadly and very loosely as a wide aperture, because there are, in the last 5 years, there's been like another wave in the horsemanship world towards pushing for change and innovation of methods. And there's been a rise of new leadership, and a bunch of people kind of proliferated around a movement. A little bit like what happened with natural horsemanship. It kind of got kickstarted by a few individuals, and then there was a cascade of change and growth underneath it. It kind of had its time in the sun, and now it's on the back burner a little bit. But we're going through another one right now. And I think that's really exciting and really positive. There's no single word for it, like the natural horsemanship was a single term for it. Now, what natural horsemanship left behind is a democratization of the horse training process. So now instead of having this one kind of system or two kind of systems everyone's kind of gunning for, now we've got 4,000 systems everyone's kind of describing. And some people can throw their hands up in the air and say, oh, there's too much choice. I'm overwhelmed. But they would have been overwhelmed if you gave them no choices as well. So overwhelmed people will be overwhelmed no matter what you do. I think it's actually democracy that these monoliths have become fractals where multiple smaller sized businesses can now make a living doing something different with horses. And I think that's really, really positive. And so when I speak to the horse first movement or the horse first community, that's what I'm speaking to, is these tens of thousands of small and mid-sized businesses that kind of might have been inspired by what happened or transpired 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even 15 years ago to a certain degree in some countries. And now they're seeking to take the next step and then the next and do something different. And it is a flawed proposition also. No proposition's perfect. The horse first proposition is flawed. Implementation is troublesome. Integrity is difficult to find. And there's a lot of people who will talk the talk, not walk the talk. As my friend Laurie always says to me, Lockie, remember, the incongruence knows no bounds. It will be everywhere. And that's okay. And I'm at peace with that. And that doesn't deter me from doing the work either. But if I'm inside the horse, if I'm loosely inside the aperture of the horse first community, I can't be in there fully drunk the Kool-Aid on it. I have to be in there saying, here are the positives, here are the negatives from the beginning, not hindsight 2020 once it's all over, from the beginning of what icebergs are coming for us. Because if we know one thing about humanity is that hubris is also quite normal. And we have to be aware as a community what problems we're potentially driving ourselves into, and maybe for the first time in history, seek to avoid them. Welcome to my brain, Cindy.
Well, I was on mute, so I was like, there was during your talking, there's like, oh, I want to address that, I want to address that, I want to address that, and then by the time you're done, I'm like, okay, wow, I feel so expanded. The time to
Welcome to my
ground and come
world.
back. So, for those people who are not familiar with you and what you bring to the Horses First movement, your work weaves in science, empathy, and feel.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share for those who are just now being introduced to you? Can you share a little bit about what that looks like for someone who doesn't know?
Very normal horse training without the nonsense. I could use a ruder word there, without the bull.
Tell me more.
Very normal horse training without the bullshit. Whatever the bullshit is, the bullshit from the horse's point of view, not from ours. Whatever is constituting a transgression against the horse, against them, actively against them, I seek to edit that out of training. The result is very normal looking horsemanship, gentle, easy, straightforwards, almost boring to look at, thank God. That educates the horse, builds rapport between you and the horse, appropriately leads you to what the horse is actually able to achieve in a progressive manner without the bullshit. To speak in layman's terms, I could go into all kinds of highfalutin whatever about it, but in a simple way, that's what it's really all about. And that's a secret I'm not trying to gatekeep. And if on the social media forward-facing aspect of it, it sounds a little bit inaccessible and a little bit heady and a little bit cognitive and a little bit confusing and a little bit strange, I'm like, Good, because that's a filter I need you to pass through before you enter into this community where we're just going to work with horses without the nonsense.
Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever looked at your horse and wondered if they're thriving in your care? Is there more you can do to give them the best life possible? Most ranches and boarding facilities are set up for convenience, not horse health, but there's tons you can do to fix your horse's situation if you're willing to get creative. Join Evidence-Based Horsekeeping, my Facebook group where members learn how to improve the mental and physical well-being of their horses. The link is in the show notes.
It's mind-blowing, really, for some, when you state it, what seems to be so simple.
It's so
However,
hard to do. So
for
hard to do.
me to hear you say normal without the bullshit, that is something to put it in, that is something that I will be pondering for quite a while, because there is extreme depth into that forward statement.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That for a lot of the people in the horse industry, it will irritate them and frustrate them because they're looking
Yes.
for something much more complicated, something much more formulated. And so I love that response, and I will be thinking about it for quite some time. And my next question that brings up for me is, tell me how the emotional component comes into it, because I know, Laura knows, you know, that the emotional, we could talk about that for days, because there's the human and the horse. So share with us your thoughts, I think.
Understanding the horse's emotional experience of the work. Understanding how you are making the horse feel right now is key to training outcomes. It's key to safety outcomes. It's key to health outcomes. It's a pretty big piece of the pie. I'm not training a motorbike with fur where it's about repairing buttons and installing buttons to press, though some people would love it to be that way. The science is robust, clear, peer-reviewed, and in metadata size at this point. Animals have rich emotional lives as much, if not more, than ours. Horses have a very advanced limbic system in the brain. They have an identical nervous system to us, identical neuroendocrine system to us, hormonal system. And what they don't have is a supercharged prefrontal cortex on cocaine like the human being does. What the prefrontal cortex does is turn the lights off on the emotional brain and get you stuck in cleverness that is so clever you're stupid again. Because it neglects the animal body. It predicates the brain towards a 5 million-year-old adaptation, the prefrontal cortex, predicates the brain, weights the brain, biases the brain towards a 5 million-year-old evolutionary gift, the prefrontal cortex, the abstract, the clever brain, at the expense of a 250 million-year-old gift, which is the emotional brain, which is older. It's gone through more iterations. It's more cohesively developed. It's just like an iPhone that's been upgraded more. It's just better at its job. The emotional and instinctive part of the brain is better at its job than the human prefrontal cortex. And therein lies the horsemanship problem in its essence. When horses and humans get off on the same page with each other is when we try to be clever. We're trying so hard to be clever that we're dumb again with an animal that has far more somatic intelligence than us, easily, effortlessly. And so what I experienced in my career as a dancer is an uninterrupted relationship with my emotional brain. Because the funny part about the emotional brain, to speak about it colloquially, now I'm not a scientist, I'm a nerd. And let me just pause right here. There's a bunch of neuroscientists out there right now that are trying to stop anyone who's not also a neuroscientist from talking about neuroscience. And that's a little bit like someone who graduated from the cordon bleu saying that no one else in the world is allowed to talk about food. Shut
Mm.
up. This stuff is peer reviewed for the public so that the public can access it. I'm a nerd. And even if I wasn't a nerd, I'm allowed to understand neuroscience without being a neuroscientist. I assert that right. Anyway, moving right along. Um, the neuroscience is really clear that when we try to be too clever, we get really dumb with a horse. And what I experienced as a dancer is an uninterrupted relationship with my emotional brain. The emotional brain, I use that colloquially, not scientifically. It's not a scientifically accurate term, but the emotional parts of the brain also control some other really important features. They also control memory formation, which is essentially learning. Without memory formation, you learn nothing. You retain no information, you have no recall. So, emotion, the same part of the brain that mediates feelings, mediates learning. Let that land and digest. And the same region of the brain mediates conscious movement, not unconscious movement, not reactivity, not touching the hot kettle and pulling the hand back, not instinctual movement, conscious movement, movement you're aware of while you're doing it, dancing. And my career as a dancer gave me from childhood into adulthood until my brain stopped developing an uninterrupted relationship with this aspect of my brain and resisted any attempt to let the prefrontal cortex turn the lights off there. In fact, my success relied upon my ability to keep the lights on in this area. So I met with horses and I found horses even as an adult, though there was some nuts and bolts to my technical skill that I had to, put together and continue to put together. I found horses really easy to understand as an adult, and that's not usually the adult's storyline. Found them easy to understand as a child, teenage years, they blacked out. Now I'm an adult and I can't understand horses anymore. Why? Because you just got too clever. You forgot your animal body. You forgot to have feelings. And so then we go out there and then we hear all of these guys and girls in wide brim hats or little caps and jodhpurs talking about feel, if they talk about feel. And in the same breath, they'll say, you've got to feel it. Also leave your emotions at the gate. My brother in Christ, those two things don't go together. Those two things don't go together. If you want to train with feel, you have to allow yourself, in fact, to feel things. If you want to feel the nuance through a leather rein, the way that your right rein can sense the inside left hind, if you want to have the sensitivity to feel that, you better be sensitive. And sensitive involves feeling your feelings. Now, a lot of people don't want to feel their feelings because we've been raised in often Anglo-Saxon culture that says feelings are bad, feelings are the devil, feelings are indulgent, put them aside. Good boys don't cry. Good girls are nice girls. You're supposed to be nice all the time. You're not allowed to be angry. You're not allowed to be. So we've got this really pathological Western relationship with emotion, which is just really diseased up and down north, south, east, west. And then we meet with an emotional animal and we try to put this all together, and it's just a rodeo and disaster. So a lot of people just turn it all off altogether and focus on the mechanical, which is easier. And that's a valid option. And there are people out there, I'm like, you just need to just do that. Just do that and be nice to the horse. And I have no issue with you. If the horses are happy and healthy, no issue with you whatsoever. But for those of us who would like to re-enter our animal bodies, to drop back in and try to feel what the horse is feeling as they're feeling it, and then feel what's going to come next, then you're talking my language and you might enjoy sitting around my campfire for a bit.
So you just blew my mind because I stepped out of a 20-year swimming career
Mm-hmm.
into a horse rescue
Mm-hmm.
and could totally understand the horses and was just given a colt to start for the summer because you can see is going on in these guys' souls. Is that the swimming
Could be
connection?
like any like
Like, is that similar to
I did
dance?
dance, but but because you were with a movement discipline all through your life, it would have kept this part of your brain open and intact. And there's a very emotional component to swimming. You're
I
in water.
certainly
It's
was
very
not like
sensual. It's like the breaststroke. I'm opening my heart chakra. It's like a whole thing, right? Yeah.
I was not
And the
raised
water
with emotional
itself.
intelligence. Like that's been
Yes.
an adult thing to figure
Yes.
out.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And swimming at a high level is a very advanced and difficult craft. Dance at a high level is a very advanced and difficult craft. Cross stitch at a high level is a very advanced and difficult craft. Horsemanship at a high level is a very advanced and difficult craft. And it turns out, though there are surface details to each craft we choose to do, skill acquisition as a process towards a high level of achievement is kind of a universal process. Skill acquisition has commonalities across disciplines. So, people who have already known what it is like to go from a body with no skill to a body with a high degree of skill know how much discipline, how much practice, how to structure, how to pace yourself, how to rest, how to analyze mistakes, how to implement improvement. You understand this process. And that process had nothing to do and everything to do with swimming, but now it's yours. And you can lift that up and apply that to anything in your life and succeed with it, which is why many parents encourage their children into co-curricular activities driven through their passion, because if they can learn skill acquisition to a high level, they'll be successful throughout all their endeavors in their life because they're not an unachieved person, if that makes sense. What is difficult is people who have started stuff and never finished stuff, or people who have never found any passion that drives them towards a high level of achievement. And then they become passionate towards horses and they start that from beginning as an adult. That's difficult to do, not impossible though.
Yeah.
With the right coaching, not impossible at all. And I know pride goeth before the fall, but permit me just a modicum of pride at not just my work as a teacher, but my team that teaches with me have done they've done a phenomenal job over the last couple of years since I've built a small curated teaching team, because I just couldn't, there was just too many people. I couldn't scale my teaching services anymore. I was doing 65 lessons a week. It was just, I can't, I'm drowning. I need people to help. We love working with that kind of person. We love working with any kind of person that puts the horse first, but we love working with people who are like, I've never kind of achieved anything. And now I'm passionate about horses and I want to figure out that process. That's our sweet spot. We love it. We'll hold your hand. We'll coach you. We'll guide you. We'll make it affordable. It's really what we love to do.
That's awesome. It's so, if you come into the horse world from the wrong angle, I shouldn't say the wrong angle, from a angle that you
An
may find
angle.
yourself
Yeah.
in, yes. Um,
If
it's
you
very
discover,
achievement based.
so I'll pause you
Yeah.
there. Instead of saying the wrong angle, we could say if you've found yourself in the horse world and realize you're no longer picking up what everyone else is putting down.
Mhm.
This is no longer in alignment for me right now anymore. That's because you've changed. The angle you took was the right angle at that time with the whatever you had at that time. And now you have changed. And instead of judging that moment of change as right or wrong, we can just say, I have now changed and I need to change. I need to pivot. I need to go over here and make different decisions now. That's a really important moment for a lot of people. That pivot point is so crucial.
And it can be for many very scary
Oh, it's terrifying.
because they have opened up a space in themselves that is now really vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
and going against the grain of what they believed was correct.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of dovetailing into what I was wanting to put forward for you, but I'm not really sure how I want to word it, so I'm just going to flow with it.
Mm.
When they're at that place, that pivotal place, And that vulnerability is high and the fear is high because they know that it's really no longer about what they can do to or for the horse, but now it becomes about what am I doing for me to be better for the horse. How do you nurture or guide? Nurture's not really, I'm nurturing
No,
God,
nurture and guide are the
those
right terms.
people through that threshold.
Mm.
Because you don't want to coddle them, but at the same time, you want to honor them and help them celebrate that new transition they're making because they have. It's not, yes, horse first, but in that moment, it is really about them opening up and saying yes to that part of themselves that the frontal lobe closed.
Okay, that's a really good question. You're discussing transitional horse people who are at that transitional moment, one foot in one world, another foot reaching for another.
Yes.
And how do I help them through that transition?
Yes.
Um, at a direct professional level, meaning me opposite someone who's transitional, I don't. And allow me to be really, really clear, not because I don't want, actually, it is because I don't want to help a transitional person, because I've learned about myself as a coach. It is the worst use of my time and energy to help someone who's transitional,
Hmm.
because even if they resonate with me, they're not going to enjoy my coaching process in its best form. They're not going to enjoy it because my coaching and teaching process in its best form is designed not for the transitional person. It is designed for the person who is off the fence.
Hmm.
And all of the things I put out there on social media could boil down really to one question. Are you off the fence or not? I won't entertain the but not always circuitous negotiations with ego that happen with a fence sitter. Not out of their malice. They're usually very good people with the best of intentions. But when someone is on the fence, a very specific type of teacher and coach is required for them. I have learned through trial and error, I ain't the one, especially if they resonate with me, because it's not if, but when they will project onto me things that don't belong to me. I've learned this through trial and error because I kept going. And I even had business coaches because I knew nothing about running a business. I was like a wild Mustang running out in the world, like, you can't touch me. And my business coach was like, Lockie, people need to be able to talk to you. I'm like, you can't touch me. Like, we need to be able to brush your mane. I'm like, no, you can't. Anyway, so a really great business coach found me out there in the wild and said, let me tame you and give you like a website and give like an email address. And I'm like, no, you don't ruin my integrity. She's like, yes, yes, yes. Funny, she used to be a Mustang tamer, long story short. Anyway, so we're still together. Even she, for a while, was like, Lockie, you've got to soften for the transitional people. You've got to welcome them in. I'm like, look, my door is wide open. I'm not stopping anyone from coming in. But if they're going to ask me, I'm going to ask them to get off the fence before I do anything for you. Because everything I will ask them to do with their horse after that requires them to be not conflicted. I will not ask their horses to be a container for their conflict, their internal turmoil. I will not ask it of their horses. And my horses will resent that. If you come to my farm and be like, Sunny, your Lockie's horse be a container for my conflict, he will do exactly nothing for you. Nothing. Very sweet about it. He's like, that's very cute, but I'm not doing nothing for you if you're internally conflicted. I cannot. Because I don't ask my horses to hold my internal conflict. I get clear before I ask them to do anything. I get internally clear so that my level of pressure doesn't have to demonstrate clarity, insert quotation marks, which really looks like levels of violence that cover up the fact that you are deeply incongruent inside. So you've got to use levels of mechanical force to have any kind of clarity for the horse. It's like yelling because you can't form a coherent sentence. So this internal strength has to go first. I had an intern who described to me on day 4 of her internship. She said, "You're like a steel marshmallow. And every day working with you is like I'm on mushrooms because you're blowing my brain wide open." I'm like, okay, that's very nice. Okay, let's talk about your seat, I would say. Let's talk about where your heels are, you know? So I don't work with transitional people anymore, but we work with transitional people.
Mm.
I found dear friends and colleagues who wanted to share my work and my business, who are legitimately fantastic instructors, who happen to be really, really, really good with transitional people. And they wanted to align with me because they wanted to earn a little bit of my chutzpah and courage also and learn how to nurture someone who's transitional while still holding them to the flame and be like, you need to make a choice.
Yeah.
We're not coddling no one over here. People think, oh, emotional horsemanship, Lockie's coddling the horses and coddling the people. Good. Come into my playpen for 10 minutes and try and see if you think any differently. I'm unfuckwithable. My business, I'm unfuckwithable. So I have an open door policy. I'm not a bridge. I'm not trying to bridge myself to people who want me to do all of the stretching in their direction because I was a bridge for so long. And then I'm like, why am I getting walked all over? Because you're a bridge. So I called it all back in. I've got metaphorically a brick and mortar business. I am established. You can come to my website at any time. You can sign up for my courses at any time. You can book in for a retreat, which is a or an internship, which is a really expensive offering. You can book in for a clinic, which is not cheap either. Or I've got something at $20 and you can access hundreds of hours of my work for $20. If you want to come and hate watch something, you've got to at least put $20 on the table.
Yeah.
So I've got it at different accessibility points because that's really important to me. I remember being poverty stricken, but my team is someone I will delegate to step in if someone is unsure and they're like, how do I get off the fence? I'm resonating with the work, but it all just feels a bit scary. I've got people who will step in and support you. But the people I coach and teach directly now in my business are people who are off the fence. And I've created a business infrastructure that enables me to be myself as much as possible because that's when I do my best work. The rest I will delegate. And we do that with enormous amount of sensitivity. I take a leadership role on that, but in the back office. So I will help orchestrate and arbitrate and support and nurture those transitional people from a distance. It's protected contact. But my team is the one that steps in with a variety of different skill sets to work with that person. But I'm not interested in nurturing someone so that they can stay on the fence longer.
Yeah.
I'm not interested
Again,
in that.
I love it. I love it. I love I love your honesty and your authenticity and the fact that you have now a group of individuals on your team that are meeting everybody where they're at so that nobody gets left behind.
Trying to. And if someone came to my clinics in 2022, they would have heard me say, I never want to be one of those horse trainers that builds a teaching team around them. Never. Because that, for me, in my naivety and immaturity and in my damage, was symbolic with horsemanship systems that became pyramid marketing schemes and predatorially accumulated clientele that they didn't really support. So, what I was saying no to was not having a teaching team. I was saying no to my brain symbol for not really supporting the people you teach and not really backing the people who want your help. So once I got over myself and matured on that a little bit, then at a clinic, I was introduced to to someone I never met before. And from the first introduction, I was like, let's be friends. We are colleagues. And from the first time she opened her mouth, she was funny, wildly competent, enormously experienced, and deeply passionate and friendly and nice. I'm like, are you a unicorn? Like, how many horse people like that are there in the horse world? 2.5, maybe. And so from the first time she ordered at a clinic, when someone else needed additional kid like white glove handling in the clinic and I had 8 other horses to deal with, and that person was falling apart, but I had 8 other horses to deal with. I said, Michelle, could you? She was already up and standing with that person. So from the first clinic she audited, she was already teaching with me as natural as if we put on custom fit gloves for each other. So we just like to my own chagrin, I just found someone that we were just a perfect fit with each other. And then she was a student in my community. And every time she spoke, people listened, and then people started asking her for help anyway. So it just started happening naturally. And she's like, I just want to let you know that your students are asking me for help. I'm like, go for it, do it. Like, I can't serve them, I'm too busy. So do it. And so then we formalized the arrangement. And then my second teammate happened like that. And now I've got a student teacher. So I've got 2 teachers and a student teacher. And that is all. That is the sum total of my teaching team. And I'm determined to grow it very slowly and very intentionally, and to have really healthy personal and professional relationships with each person on my team. It'll never be some kind of mega organization. It'll never be that. It'll always be like a cottage industry. Always.
Yeah.
Nice.
I say that now, but talk to me in 5 years' time. We don't know what might shift, but we'll see.
But I bet the core of it
We'll stay intact.
Yes, the
will
ethos will
stay
not
the
change.
same, because in 22 you consciously made the decision.
Yeah.
I'm not replicating that.
No.
And you're walking the talk.
Trying to.
Yes.
Trying to.
And it takes time, but that's what we need. That is the shift that's going on, and it starts in our horse world, but each of us that are touched by it, it ripples out into all of our lives. And we want to honor your time with us, Lockie. So I think Laura's going to take it from here.
So if you are an avid listener of the Emotional Horsemanship podcast, which I highly recommend you should be, you're going to recognize these 3 questions, and we're excited to kind of put a bow on our episode by asking Lockie these 3 questions. If you were to muck out one thing in the horse industry, what would it be?
Pervasive violence. When I use the word pervasive, I mean in every place it exists. Not just the 2x4 trainers where any idiot on the street can be like, that's violent, right? People who blindfold horses and tie them to tree stumps and beat them with 2x4s, which still exist. That's an option for people all over the world still. But also the Diet Coke versions of that. Microaggressions through almost invisible equipment, described with soft euphemistic language. It's not a stick, it's a wand. A rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. An object that hurts or intimidates a horse hurts and intimidates the horse no matter what story we tell about it. And people who benefit from fear conditioning by brandishing symbols that have fear conditioned horses in the past. It does not matter if you right now ever did that intentionally or unintentionally to that horse. If somebody else did, and you have not gone through a specialized targeted rehabilitation, emotional, psychological, nervous system rehabilitation around that piece of equipment with that horse, with a specialist in that area, but you are using a piece of equipment that somebody else hurt or intimidated that horse with even years ago, you are benefiting from fear and pain conditioning, because all learning is accumulative. Horses are like elephants. They never forget. People who rescue elephants describe them as extremely vulnerable animals to abuse because their memory is so good. Anything that happens, they have such long lives. Anything that happens to them, they remember. So elephants that have been handled with bull hooks will be afraid of bull hooks forever. Horses who have been whipped as a baby will be afraid of a whip at 25 years old, unless you have found a trainer who specializes in fear and pain remediation and rehabilitation specifically, and has done a lot of it. And you've gone through a very targeted process on that, which is a very specific way to train. You can't just drop the stick and keep going, though that's a good place to start. So that's very ubiquitous in the industry, unless you've raised a horse from scratch yourself. assume that every horse you've ever handled has been whipped in a way that at least stung them, not enough to know that they're about to die, but enough that they know they're not really safe with that person, not completely, to be themselves or say everything they want to say. No, not completely. So, violence, pervasive violence, wherever it lives at every level, if I could muck that out and root that out of the industry overnight, if I could snap my fingers and go like this and it was done, I would pull that trigger straight away. I don't care what leverage people lose. I don't care what behavioral accomplishments people can no longer accomplish. I don't care. I would like everyone to start playing fair on fear. And it's not fair to benefit from fear conditioning simply by holding it. Oh, I never touch it. Yes. So why is the horse moving faster when you hold it? Because if it is an extension of the arm, the same technique will work when you just use your arm without a stick. If you drop the stick and the horse doesn't understand you, but you pick up the stick and the horse does, know that you're benefiting from fear and pain conditioning. End of. There's no running from that. And that will upset people. I'm not trying to upset people. I'm trying to tell the truth because it's upsetting horses. And we're not adept at realizing the ways they display that they're upset. Some horses will look absolutely fine and then colic on a Tuesday out of nowhere and die. Some horses will look absolutely fine and then out of the blue, they've bucked you to the ground. Some horses will be absolutely fine, but there's a persistent low-level inflammation in their skin, in their gut, in their eyes, in their teeth, in their feet that you just can't seem to get rid of. Some horses are absolutely fine, but they're really hard to socialize in a field. These are the ways these things show up in horses. Horses have a birthright to peace because they are one of the planet's most peaceful animals. They're grass eaters on legs. That's it. And though there are stallion skirmishes in the wild around breeding, most stallion skirmishes do not end in grievous bodily harm. Most are handled at a distance through posture and bluff. And these are very short, intense encounters that are over very quickly. And it's like Christmas. It happens once a year and it's done. The majority of the year, these animals live peacefully. If we're having to replicate a violent interaction every day, multiple times a day, we're with a horse, even a gently violent interaction, something's really wrong with that horse's life, with their training, with their relationship to training, with relationship to people. And we just need to stop running from it. And pervasive violence is what it comes down to. The human race, as an upper primate, is obsessed with the power that violence gives them. And horses helped us build our civilization by pulling logs out of the forest and taking us to war and helping us run our businesses. And there was a time in history where they had to do things for us for our own survival. That time is gone. It's been gone for a while now, and we haven't pivoted because we're too obsessed with our ego on the subject. We are some of the first generation of horse people whose horses don't have to do it anymore. So what do we do now? Let go of violence, be kind and communicate, and discover that if given the option and a little bit more time, and when I say time, I mean most horses trend between 60 seconds to 10 minutes of time in thinking what we're asking them to do. Usually that's what it takes. The horses will be like, actually, if given the choice, yeah, I'd like to do stuff with you. Actually.
Yeah. Oof. All righty. Tides of change. That's a big one for you, and we've been
Well,
talking about it for an hour and a half. But yes.
I think I just mentioned the tide of change. I think the biggest tide of change now is the fact that horses are no longer a part of industry. They're no longer a part of warfare. They're no longer a component of our survival, unless they are. There are a few, let's say, outcamps of equestrians in our community for whom horses are their survival. We're talking the up-down lesson barns that those horses have to go up, down in order for the bills to be paid. That's a survival situation. And we need to be looking very closely at those horses and at those systems and at those businesses and how can we innovate that so that the horses are okay, so the horses are protected. We're looking at everything from diet, turnout, saddle fit, body work. I mean, what can we need to throw the book at those animals. So any horse that is still in a business for whom financial survival of that service provider relies upon the horse's performance, we need to look very carefully at how they're going about achieving that and what kind of aftercare those horses are getting for their job. I've created a business which is all around my horses, and I need to be able to demonstrate results with my horses in order to keep working. And I do that. And part of my business structure is that they don't have to do it. Mm-hmm. So I've built that into my business, and I will teach on that subject when they don't do it and why. Mm-hmm. So that's part of my business structure so that my horses will be okay. So this is part of the tide of change, because it turns out innovating horse training is not just an individual making a choice to be nicer to a horse or to work more patiently. It's an entire business structure. It's an entire family issue. It comes down to an accounting issue. It turns into a time management issue. So it's this, all of the logistics around it is what we need to start looking at very, very carefully. We need to surround, if the problem is a nucleus, we need to surround the nucleus of the problem with as many solutions before we get targeted until we can just drop the violence altogether. That's the tide of change for me.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And of course, I'm reciting all three of them effortlessly this morning. And now that we're sitting here, the third one has left the room.
What's home for me?
Oh, yes, that's my favorite one.
Home is a place, and as an immigrant, I feel really privileged to have a patch of earth on the planet in a country I wasn't born in that belongs to me for now. That's a privilege. And so after this kind of gypsy rootless existence for 15, 20 years running around Europe, it's a real privilege to be able to deepen where I am from scratch and build a home and a herd and a center and a meeting place for me, for my friends, for my family, for my community from scratch. And I mean, I've got someone in the house right now. I have an intern in the house right now. I've had a full house since May this year, and it's December, and it's full until March next year, because I'm just using my home as a place for others to drop in, which leads into the way home is a feeling of dropping in and being in your body, fully present, not apologizing, not joining the guilt Olympics either. Being fully in your body exactly as you are meant to be. And then, of course, I find home in others, not just in my relationship to myself, but I would probably find home in others before I found it in myself. Others including the people I love, the people I serve and work with, my friendships, the relationships I've been blessed to enjoy in my life, and my horses, you know. Like if I've been traveling, the first thing that makes me really feel like home is getting on my horse, Sanson. I just go, and I'm home. Just feel like I belong there.
That one, the cadence of the steps of that one is just, oof.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah. I love all horses. Never met a horse I don't like. But, you know, we all have that one special horse that sort of changes everything for us. And he's it for me. So.
Yes.
Cool.
Well, Lockie, this has been amazing. We appreciate you taking your time and sharing who you are and what you do with us and all of our listeners. And I, for one, Lockie has started a new offering where he is offering several clinics, recorded clinics. And because I'm not in a place where I can jump in and study with him in the way I'd like to, I have gotten those clinics. And for any of you who want to know more about what he does and how he does it, that is a great, affordable starting place if monetary issues are there and you still wanna take a dive.
Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate the plug. Yeah, if anyone would like to explore what we could help you with, find yourself on emotionalhorsemanship.com, no spaces, emotionalhorsemanship.com.
That'll be in the
And
show notes for anybody who.
great. And you just read what's written there. There are different access points. Initially, it can feel a little confusing. Which one should I start with first? Firstly, we don't should on our students. So you can start anywhere you want because it's all going in the same direction. It's all flowing down the same river. So it's designed for you to start with whatever attracts your fancy first. For most people, that would be the foundation online course, which is really the first step. And then I do have a structured progressive training process through Homecoming 1, Homecoming 2, Homecoming 3 that works together with the foundation course as a first step. So you could do that, which is very linear. But I've got courses on hoof care. I have courses on food reward. I have courses on body movement that I drew from my career as a dancer and my career as a professional rider in the mountains. And I also have recorded, as Cindy said, 3 clinics over the last couple of years and published them in their entirety. So you can actually watch me working with cold clients at a public facing level in other countries. And I also have a school. So the school is the cheapest way to begin. It's like $20. It's a subscription. It's $3 for a month. And you get to meet with me on Zoom live twice a month. And there's dozens of videos in a library, hundreds of videos in a library, and I put new ones there every month. And not all the videos are me demonstrating. A lot of them are my clients doing the work. So you get to see other people's horses translating this work too, which is even more powerful than watching me do it. You get to see someone like you doing it in different countries. So, yeah. And then there's private services as well.
Beautiful. Perfect. Again, thank you very much. We appreciate you and all that you do for the horse world, and for taking the time to let us expand what you do with our listeners as well.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate both of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So if you have any questions about the topics covered in this episode, send us a message on our Facebook page, Holistic Horsemanship and Husbandry, and we will answer your question in a post on our page. You will be anonymous. We'll just take the question and provide our input, and we want to do it on the post so that we can all learn and grow together, because nobody knows everything. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. We want to remind you that we'll be here every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, following the golden rule. Have a plan, but always be willing to be flexible. Don't forget to connect with us using the links in the show notes below.
If you learned something new today, had an aha, or walked away with a valuable nugget, you can say thanks by leaving us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on.